All right, we're going to continue our study of exponents today, and this time we're going to talk about radicals and rational exponents. So let's first break down both of those terms and review them. So the first thing is a radical. A radical is going to be something like the square root of 64, or the cube root of 125, or any other root that we have that we can use, fourth root, fifth root, sixth roots, whatever it might be. Square roots and cube roots are definitely some of the most common that we're going to see. Now, rational numbers, if you guys remember, are real numbers that can be written as fractions. So using that in mind, keeping that in mind, we're going to have fractional exponents. And they're going to be related to radicals. So we're going to tie this all in together. So here's how this works. The square root of 64, we all know that it's 8, right? Well, hopefully you do. So if we want to write this in exponent form and not radical form, what we're going to do is, because it's a square root, this is technically a power of 2, even though we don't see it, we're going to write it over to the 1/2 power. So in your calculator, if you were to type in 64 and then an exponent of 1/2, you're going to get 8. Now, in an even square root, okay, in an even root, a square root, a fourth root, a sixth root, and this might be confusing to you, but you'll see as we go through the class, those are going to have two solutions. Because how do you get 64 with two numbers? 8 times 8, or negative 8 times negative 8, because the negative and negative will give you a positive answer. So if you have an even root, we're going to have two solutions. So the square root of 64 technically is not 8. It's positive and negative 8. So you're going to have one positive solution and one negative solution. Now, if we take the cube root of 125, what we're going to do then is write 125 to the 1/3 power. Now, an odd root, third, fifth, seventh, and so on, is only going to have one solution. It's either depending on the number. So if it's a positive answer, it'll have a positive solution. If the number is a negative, it'll have a negative solution. So for example, down here, we have the cube root of negative 27. So if we do negative 27 to the 3rd power, we're going to get negative 3 as our answer. And because it's an odd root, we only have one solution. Very important, so make sure you guys take note of that. So now we have this other concept. What if we went backwards? So we're going from radical form to rational form. Now let's go from rational form into radical form, and we're going to add some numbers so you see a slight variation of what I just talked about. So what happens if I gave you 27 to the 2/3 power? Now the 2 in the numerator is different because in the other examples we had 1. So here's what ends up happening with that 2. If this were 27 to the 1/3 power, it would be 27 to the 3rd power. But that 2 on top, what that does is it goes outside of this parenthesis. So we would end up taking the 3rd root of 27 and then squaring that particular answer. So the 3rd root of 27 is 3, and then squared would give you an answer of 9. So again, pay attention to the numbers. The 2 goes outside the parentheses. The denominator is the root. Okay, so the denominator is the root. The numerator is going to be the exponent outside of the parentheses. All right, so you're going to end up doing some problems manipulating these things. In the end, your answer is going to be a number if you have numbers. Okay, so this technically isn't the final answer. The final answer would be 9. Okay, so keep that in mind when you evaluate something like this. If you're given variables, then you're only going to go to a certain level before the problem is completed.